Hello everyone and welcome to the 5th episode of With You in Mind. My name is Sarah Bullock-Chase and I'm joined by my co-pilot Lisa Upton. We are the co-founders of Brain Buddy and together we are going to be your podcast hosts. Now before we get started and introduce you to our special guest, we would like to give a big shout out to our sponsors of our podcast With You in Mind, the National Brain Appeal, who are the supporting charity for the National Hospital of Neurology and Neurosurgery at Queen Square in London. And the work they do is simply phenomenal. You can check them out at www.nationalbrainappeal.org. Now, I'm really excited for today's episode. It's a really good one. So let's cue that jingle and get this episode started.
Yes, it's a really exciting episode that we have lined up for you today because we're joined by special guest Bridie. Bridie is Eamonn's mum. Now you might remember Eamonn, he took part in our last episode of With You in Mind as our very first patient guest from the National Hospital. He shared with us his amazing story neurosurgery, and Bridie joins us today as his mum, and she's going to be sharing her perspective as a parent on how it feels to have your child embark on the journey of brain surgery, and we're really excited to have her here.
Well, welcome Bridie, and we wonder, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, and I'm delighted that you've invited me. It's just so lovely to speak to you both again, with all the amazing work that you're doing. So to be any little part of your wonderful venture is an honour.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. I mean, it's great to have you here, like joining us today, because obviously we heard from your son, Eamonn, on our previous episode. And so now we really want to hear from you, to understand your perspective as a mum.
Obviously, I hope that whatever I may say may be of use. I just think sometimes when you talk to different people, somebody might just say something that will trigger something and make you think of it in a different way, a different perspective. So if this can be of help to one person, then that would be wonderful.
I'm sure it will, Bridie. And listen, this is the first time we've actually recorded a podcast with the parent of, so you're our first. So
my goodness.
No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure.
So look, we're going to take you right back to the start as part of this interview. We're going to take you back to the time when Eamonn told us as part of his recording that he first started experiencing these strange kind of sensations in his right arm when he was 13, just before he got diagnosed with epilepsy. So we wanted to ask, when he tried to explain these kind of tremor-like things that were happening to him, what did you think of that and what was your response?
Yes, it was quite sporadic. It would come in clusters. So it wasn't all the time. Obviously, we went to the doctor and he had CT scans at the hospital and they just put it down to tremors. There was nothing else flagged up. So because it was the age he was as well, and because it was sporadic, we just thought he may grow out of it, maybe part of his adolescence, puberty, you never know, and it would be grown out of. So although it came and went, there were periods when it didn't happen for a long time, like a couple of years maybe, and then it would happen again. So I just sort of thought he would grow out of it, to be honest.
That's interesting. And I think often doctors put it down to that when it is of that age, like 13, 14, particularly like puberty. I remember them saying that to my mum. But did you have like a mother's intuition where you thought it might be something else, or did you just believe what the doctors said?
No, I just believed what they said, to be honest. I mean, we didn't go for a second opinion because it didn't present itself any worse. It hadn't developed that they were larger tremors or anything like that. So I just trusted them, and I kind of thought we would grow out of it, maybe naively, but you trust what you're told, I think.
Of course you do, yeah, particularly by the specialists.
Yes. So with hindsight, whether we should have gone for a second opinion and thought, no, this is going beyond the adolescent puberty years. But to be honest, Eamonn, incredible man that he is now, he just got on with it. And it never caused him any problem. He still continued to play sport. He still continued to go to watch Manchester United. And it didn't impact in any way. And so he didn't make it seem like it was a big deal. And maybe with hindsight, we should have gone for more exploratory CT scans or whatever. But I don't know. You never know. It's what if I should have done that? Should I have done that? But if it had have been brought to light at that age, would that have impacted his growing up?
Yeah.
So maybe was it the right time to have been diagnosed with epilepsy? Would that have affected him further down the line, knowing that at a younger age?
That's interesting, isn't it? It's that, like, looking back and thinking, well, what if? But if it wasn't really impacting his life, and like you say, it just randomly occurred, and if it wasn't impacting him and the doctors are saying one thing, then carry on. And is it just about growth? It's interesting. But then obviously Eamonn, he was later then diagnosed with epilepsy after having, a seizure on a flight on the way back from Russia. He told us about.
Oh yes, he didn't do it quietly. No, it was, if it was going to present itself, it was going to be something a bit spectacular, wasn't it?
Okay, so nothing on the small side. Always go a bit. And I mean, we were so surprised that it was on a flight on his way back from Russia. And so we wonder, after that, he said he underwent a number of different tests and finally concluded then that he had epilepsy. And I mean, we wonder, what was it then like for you? Do you remember how you felt when you were told then he had epilepsy? Or what was that like after that experience of him having a seizure on the plane? Where were you? What was going on?
Oh my goodness,
happened?
I had this phone call from somebody telling me that he'd had this huge fit on the plane. And I was like, no, surely not. It must be somebody not playing some sort of sick joke, but, somebody that was with him out there teasing me or whatever. And I remember this man saying, no, just shut up and listen because you need to hear this. Oh my goodness, your world goes upside down, doesn't it?
Oh yeah,
because it's like before and after. Your life goes upside down. Nothing's ever going to be the same again that you've had up to now. Obviously the epilepsy was, oh, are you sure it's epilepsy? Are you sure? Is it just a one-off? Can you be sure that it's epilepsy? And then when we were told, yes, it's not just a one-off, it's not just a fluke, it is epilepsy. So that's huge. You've got to then look up what epilepsy, what the effects, all the different things that you didn't know about. So then you become a sort of a mini expert, well, of sorts in a way. And then when the scan found that there was something that was causing this, then that's another huge thing. So it wasn't just the epilepsy, but to be told then that there's this lesion of sorts, we don't know what it is at this stage, but there is something on your brain. Well, once you hear that, you're just, obviously, you're upset, you're crying, you can't comprehend it. This is huge. Is it life-threatening? Is it, everything goes through your head, doesn't it? So.
And I wonder what's that like, because, being the mother and also obviously wanting to be there for your child, hearing that, what was that like, balancing it? It's your own emotions, but also being there for then your child. It's.
It's if you could have it yourself, you would replace it for your child. All that stupid thing goes through your head because that's not true. Your child is your priority. You're here you bring them in the world to keep them safe and well. And, it's out of your control to a certain extent now. And this thing has come along that you can't make it better.
Yeah.
I suppose there's a massive element of uncertainty that came with it all as well, which as a parent, I only imagine is just incredibly hard to deal with. How did you cope with that? Both you and Eamonn's dad?
And Pat, yes. Well, you're just thrown into it, basically. You're just thrown into it. Your life is turned upside down. We've 3 other children younger than Eamonn. So how will that affect them? Eamonn still throughout wasn't making a big deal of it. He wasn't, I'm feeling sorry for myself. Nothing like that. Nothing at all. He just got on with it. He didn't want it to define him, I think. And obviously we had a couple of diagnoses. We were referred from our neurologist here. We were referred to Bart's, and we were under a consultant up there, and he would scan him every 6 months. And he was of the opinion that if this, whatever it was, would start to grow, that was it. That was serious. And he told us basically that because it was sort of like a nebulous, and there wasn't like a defined form to whatever it was, but it wasn't defined enough that it couldn't be removed. So back we would go every 6 months. Eamonn was at university at this stage. I remember he went to university that September following the fit in May. So that was doubly hard, leaving him at university. And you would see all these other parents crying, leaving their children and saying, I don't want to leave you. And I thought, flipping heck, my son's got something on the brain, and you're worrying about leaving your child. There was so much going on, but he was determined. The university, bless them, I'm going to shout out to St Mary's Twickenham. They were fabulous. They were pre-warned, they knew, they kept an eye, they monitored him throughout. And he didn't tell many people. I mean, I think the friends that he made, I don't think he told them very much either. And it was only when he moved into accommodation with them that they were then told, so that they would have to look out for him if he ever fitted or if he ever had these tremors. And they were brilliant. So we were under Bart's for many, many years. And we did have a second opinion, and we did visit Queen Square at another stage. And I can't remember the consultant's name. This consultant told us, no, it's not going to grow. It is what it is, and it's fine. Nothing will happen with it. And this was, whoa, this is not what we were led to believe. Should we stay with Queen Square and trust this doctor, or should we err on the side of caution and remain with Bart's, where they're going to watch it closely every 6 months? We stayed with Bart's. Again, with hindsight, his story may have been different if we had stayed at Queen Square all those, I can't even remember what year it was now.
When came that transition from going from Bart's and trusting those people to making the leap and going to National Hospital for Neurology Neurosurgery?
It was our fabulous neurologist at Southend Hospital, Mr. Everett, who then thought, after many, many combinations, variations of medication, nothing was working. It had gone on so long that he's tried so many different combinations, varying dosage. A huge long list of different medications were tried. And he thought, I'm going to refer you to Professor Duncan.
Okay. So
it was his initiative that we then moved on to Professor Duncan and his wisdom.
And I wonder, what was it like actually for you, having your son, be put on different medications, different effects? He told us about, one of them reaching a certain level, and wonder what that was like, that, under one care, being prescribed different things, trying to get a control, but it seemed to not. What was that like for you as his mother as well?
Well, it was, do we try a different one again, or will that cause further complications, side effects? It's just such a, and I understand that every individual is different. So one combination of drugs will not suit another, because each brain, whether it is a tumour or a lesion or whatever, is unique to that individual, and they're coming with their different histories, aren't they? Different medical histories. Well, it was scary. Scary. What would this medication do? Throughout, it was always, this Mr. Everett at Southend has been with him from day one. He was with him when he was first diagnosed back at 13. We saw him then. So he has carried Eamonn throughout. And he's been a pillar throughout, that we know that we could have always contacted him and he would have been there. He was our port of call. And he would always discuss it with Eamonn. Do you want to change? Do you want to? This is this. And he was totally open with him. It was Eamonn's decisions all the way along, whether he would change, whether he would up the dose, whether he would remain or try it a bit longer. We sort of left it to Eamonn.
And so then even on then switching to the national on that, was that also him wanting that as well?
Yes, throughout it was always his decisions. But to be on, once we were under their care, it was full steam ahead, wasn't it? It was just a different ball game. And when he was told that there was a possibility of surgery, again, huge. Throughout all the appointments and throughout the consultations and the neuropsychological things at Chalfont, it's a long old process, isn't it? It's not for anybody venturing. Be prepared. It is a long process, supremely thorough, but a long process.
As you're saying that, I kind of think, is it like a bit of a marathon? It's not a sprint, it's a bit of a marathon. Take it in its stride, be good to yourself, take care of yourself as you're going through it. Yes, there are different stages, but it's that lengthy.
It's a lengthy process, and obviously you then have to wait for a bed to come up. I feel so bad for those people that have been impacted with COVID, because their wait has been extended. So I'm blessed that we were pre-COVID, but hearing stories of how they weren't able to operate for so long, listening in at your Brain Buddy meetings and hearing Professor Duncan speaking about not being able to operate for so long, the poor people that are now in the system that still haven't had their life-changing surgery is heartbreaking.
Bridie, can we talk to you about the surgery? Because when we chatted to Eamonn as part of the podcast, he was telling us that when Professor Duncan first spoke to him about the option of having surgery, I think at the words Eamonn used, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was like, bring it on. I'm well up for this. This is a great challenge I want to take on. So he was like all for it and totally embracing of it. But how did you feel at the prospect of him having to embark on brain surgery?
Well, just to say the word brain surgery scares the bejeepers out of me. That is huge, isn't it?
Massive.
And to think, gosh, my son's had brain surgery. You always make sort of a joke about, oh, well, it's not brain surgery, something. It's not, So that is huge. You go through all the emotions. Is it a risk worth taking? I think fundamentally, Eamonn probably alluded to this and said that one of the final appointments was, I think Pat, my husband, said, if it was your brother having this appointment, this surgery, would you, or your son, would you go ahead with it? And I think Eamonn's probably said this to you, and I'm probably repeating it, but he was of the opinion, well, if it's good enough for a family member of yours, then I will go through with it. Fundamentally, we had to support his decision. Interestingly, my husband didn't want him to have the operation.
What about you? What was your view? Did you want him? Did you not want him? Or were you in between?
I never didn't want him, but obviously you fluctuate between, am I advising him wrongly? He did ask what we thought. It was hard to give an answer.
Okay.
But like he said, if he didn't do it, he would be always thinking, what if? And I think with his strength of character, I just thought, whatever happens, we will do it together. And apart from, I was said about my husband, my Eamonn is probably the closest one to my husband out of all the children, and he's the one that wants to please him, I think, the most, which sounds a bit cringy, and I thought, I hope that you don't change your decision to please your father. But he again, the strength of character, he knew that he was determined and he would do it. How could you say, I don't think you should do it?
He shared with us actually that moment when you and Pat met the surgeons, Anna and Andrew, and he said that he felt obviously a huge sense of trust and belief in the operation, but he also told us that he sensed that at that point he really realised and understood that you and his dad felt it too.
Wow, that's interesting, because we probably haven't had that conversation. I did want to actually mention that appointment because both Anna and Andrew, they seemed to have all the time in the world. There was no rush with that appointment. They could have sat there. It felt as if they could sit there for hours if we needed them to. And I thought, wow, you're probably the two busiest people in this place, and you can give us that time and answer any questions, however stupid, and go over in exact detail what was going to happen at each stage. And I just thought, I think that's probably the longest appointment we've ever had. And you think they're probably the busiest people, and for them to be able to give that time and care to prospective patients is just incredible. And I think that's not just for us, but for everybody else. That's just incredible.
Yeah.
It really is. And we speak from a place of being completely biased, but they're just an amazing team, aren't they, at the National? They do have all the time in the world for you.
You're not just rushed through an appointment in and out, which you often get in other, we've all had hospital appointments and doctor's appointments, and you don't always feel as though you're heard or you're in and out or your time's up. But with that, meticulous detail, telling you everything, what you may expect, what might be the outcome, and so on. There was no rush with that appointment. It was they were incredible.
Oh, well, that's lovely to hear, really, because it is, I suppose, thinking, it is such an important appointment that you're at that point of trusting, or it's that question of, am I going to trust these people to take care of my child?
I think that's fundamentally it.
Yeah.
Do you trust them enough with your child's life?
Yeah.
And I think you've got to come to that decision. They wouldn't be recommending surgery unless they believed in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's key. They wouldn't recommend it falsely.
If you think about it, the amount of tests that are done to see whether it is the right treatment for you as well.
Yes, at different stages throughout.
Yeah.
Before, during, after. Yeah, I think it's trust at the end of the day. And I just think they know what they're doing. I mean, like you say, the National is such an amazing place. No wonder wasn't it ranked?
It's now just voted, yeah.
Yes, no wonder, of course.
Yeah.
So, yes, if you can put your trust into them.
Yeah. And so then, we wonder, after that decision then came about and he made the decision, and it is, you're saying, about putting your trust, then when it came to it, how did you feel with him going into hospital, of needing to put those things in place? Did you take him there? Tell us a bit about that, of what your experience was like of him then going into the hospital. And
we found out about a week before he had that all-important call. I mean, we were waiting and people would be saying, any word about any of you heard anything? And it would go on and on and on. So you need a bit of patience with this. It was about a week before. And I remember it was February the 14th. I remember that because that's Valentine's Day. I thought that was quite significant. And I think it was a Wednesday. And I think the weekend before, I thought, is he having doubts? He wasn't as confident. So I think it started to hit home for him. Pat took him up the day before. He had assessments and, because of the position of it was behind the primary sensory strip in his brain. So the risks were that his speech would be impaired or affected, and his right hand loss of use. So that was what the two risks that would be impaired. So he was assessed. He went down he went there the day before. I was at work that day, so his sister and I went up after work that evening. We didn't stay up there. We live in Southend, which is about an hour's train journey away. Don't know whether, with hindsight, we should have stayed, but it didn't matter. We left him there overnight. Obviously, set off early the next morning. Saw him before he went down for surgery. Had to be there before he went down to surgery. That was a no-brainer. We were there right until he went down, and he was put to sleep, met the anaesthetist and everything. And the anaesthetist, he offered to record the operation. I don't know, Eamonn's probably told you this as well. Eamonn was all for that. He wanted to see his operation filmed. He wanted to see it. He wanted to see what was being done. Unfortunately, it wasn't recorded, but that's neither here nor there. Went down, surgery was about 7 hours. Didn't know what to do with ourselves. First thing we did was went down to the cafe, and we saw Andrew McAvoy in the cafe, and that just, how are you here? But obviously later on I realised that he doesn't come in until at the right moment. All the other superb medical team are prepping him and getting it underway. So see him there, that threw me a bit, in his scrubs and all this. I was all over the place. I didn't know what I was doing. I think I even dropped the tray of tea and whatever we were having. I was all over the place, didn't know what to do with ourselves. Went for a walk around outside, couldn't focus, had to get back to the hospital. It's a bit surreal. It is totally surreal. Waited by where he was and where we left him. Then we were told everything was fine, fabulous. And then we did see him briefly in the recovery room, where there was somebody watching him for the full 24 hours, isn't there? Somebody
ICU.
Yes. Yeah. Watching meticulously. So we were allowed in for a few minutes, and the relief to see him. Yeah, you can't explain that. Real day. It is one of the toughest days of your life. He came out. That was it. That's all we wanted. We wanted to see him at the other side. That was it. Very emotional. Different to see him, so his response to all the assessments, and he was really not responding well. He couldn't speak, he couldn't recall words, he wasn't able to follow commands. I remember them asking him to put the finger on his nose, and he couldn't even do that. And you're thinking, oh my goodness, is this going to be what he's going to be able, that's his extent of. So that was horrible. It was very emotional that day. But the nurses on the Molly Lane Fox ward, they were fabulous. They were saying, no, it's fine. This is to be expected. But that was horrible to see that he wasn't able to respond and speak. And so we thought had we done the wrong thing? Oh, yeah, that was horrible.
Oh, wow. That does sound terrible, like witnessing that. But I wonder there as well, having that reassurance of the nurses saying, no, this is okay. It's like that challenge of, okay, yes, but I'm not used to seeing my child like this, that. Oh.
I think what's interesting is, like, you describe it as like a roller coaster of emotions. And look, we've interviewed so many parents, including our own, about the day, the journey. And it's almost like you have that immense sense of relief when you see them come through it, which is quite quickly followed by just complete worry, because things are, when your brain has been messed around with, pardon the expression, but it comes with consequences, doesn't it, initially? And there is that immediate 2-3 days of going, oh my God, what is happening?
Yes, I mean, you couldn't, do anything independently for a few weeks, probably. You'd have to dress him and, wash him and all this. Well, maybe not that long, maybe only about a week, but when you think, oh my goodness. But then when you do think about it, that brain has been pulled around, bruised. It needs time. It needs time to recover. Fortunately, we've come out the other side and we're able to realise that is the process.
And so obviously you shared with us, just that bit of the immediate coming out, but then what were the next few days like, that initial, recovery within the hospital? And then we'll obviously want to hear as well about the longer term of it as well, how it was. Yeah.
Because speech was one of the areas that may have been impacted, the speech was assessed constantly. He was then arranged for speech therapy to happen when he was discharged at home. And his speech, I think, just took time. It just took time, and that little bit of speech therapy may have helped him along the way. But as you know now, you wouldn't know if there was any problem at all. I mean, he does have an odd bit of recall and word retrieval. But I mean, what his impact is now. He was in hospital for about a week. Slowly, he would be able to walk down to the restaurant. So there was progress. You could see progress was being made. So that was encouraging. I think you just needed to see these little small steps to reassure yourself that it was going in the right direction.
I mean, it's a lot, isn't it, as a parent to go through? I can't imagine, right? I can't imagine. But what was the hardest part of the whole thing for you?
The hardest part was leaving him that day at the operation and handing him over to people whose life his life was in their hands. I think that was the toughest bit, and then seeing how poor he was the next day. And of course, all the emotions are coming out. You're emotional because you're tired yourself, and I know it's not about you, but obviously your emotions are all over the place. So I think that was the hardest part, seeing him at his lowest. Once we got him home, he came home and stayed with us for a few weeks. So he didn't go home to his flat, although he did have a friend that was sharing the flat with him. So he needed to be at home because he needed more or less full-time care. And he was getting sick. We had anti-sickness tablets, but then he was in a bit of pain that following weekend. So we did go back to the hospital, Southend Hospital. We rang 111 and we rang the ward, and they said if we had any concerns, take him to A&E. Once my husband heard that, we were straight to A&E, and he was kept in overnight. And they did do a CT scan and sent the results up to the National, and they weren't duly concerned. So he was discharged, and slowly but surely his symptoms improved, and he slowly became more independent. He was able to go out. So yeah, in quite a short space of time, actually.
How long
within a week, I suppose. He was able to go out maybe the following weekend. And you think, wow, so quickly. And you think, oh, you're doing too much too soon. No, he needed to do that.
I mean, I remember he attended our talk, and that was probably only 6 to 12 months after his surgery, wasn't it? And I was like, wow, this guy's doing well.
Yes, I mean, he's determined, isn't he?
He really is, yeah. And I mean, that's testament to obviously his upbringing. I think Bridie, you and Pat, but he is. He's inspirational. I don't know where he gets it from.
To be honest. Just saying one more. When we left the hospital and he was discharged, it was a bit scary because you don't have these nurses that will deal with whatever happens, and it's you that's got to be watching him and making sure that he's okay. That was scary when you come out of hospital, and you felt like, what do we do? Is it okay? Is this okay? Even washing his hair, like where the stitches were. Are we allowed to wash his hair? Are we allowed to touch these stitches? Are we allowed to put shampoo on these stitches? Even little things like that. And I think since we've been in, I think there's been an impact that they've got I think you were instrumental in a little sort of levers pack, so to speak, with answering questions that seem trivial, but you've got them at home and you think, am I doing the wrong thing? So it's things like that would be beneficial for parents leaving and then taking their baby home, and knowing that what's normal and what's not. Because when we did leave, it did feel a bit, now what do we do? So I think you've been instrumental in bridging that gap and having information booklets that can be of use.
I bet it all seems a little bit like a memory, a dream rather, when you look back on it now. But if you could just describe the experience in just a few words, or how would you describe it all looking back now?
Oh, wow, it's huge. It is huge. I think his strengths probably carried us as well, in a way. We knew that he was a strong character, and whatever the consequences, we would deal with it. It was wonderful to meet and trust these experts and life-changing people, that it's just their job, but to us it's life-changing and huge. I don't know, it's just huge. You've got to put your trust in them and to have faith in it, really. Just have faith in what they tell you, and don't expect too much too soon. But they don't tell you to expect too much too soon. It's just you that needs to stop and take a step and think, no, this is too soon. So just go with their advice. I think just put your trust in them.
And so obviously, Eamonn shared with us that now he's actually been seizure free and, reduced medications, and even actually now come off of, being referred through the national, it really is that, it's had such an important, change. I'm thinking of where it started and then where also he is and where you are now. I suppose we wonder, what would your advice be, to other parents of people who have epilepsy and who might be considering surgery? What would your advice be to them?
My advice would be, whatever the people at Queen Square say, they know what they're talking about. I know not everybody's under Queen Square, and I understand that. I think, and obviously every case is different. Obviously Eamonn's epilepsy wasn't as severe as many people, and I appreciate that he wasn't on the spectrum of things. He had very mild epilepsy. He was able to function, he was able to work, and for people that have, it's much more life debilitating, then I can't begin to know how they feel. But from our perspective, we were fortunate, we were lucky. The day that we were referred to Queen Square, it was just life-changing. It was huge. And now, like you say, it does feel like a while ago, and I've kind of, days go and I don't think about it. Whereas before it was constant. Will he be okay? Is he all right? And now I don't even like to say that he's seizure free, because I'm I don't want to jinx it. I know that sounds really stupid, but if ever came the day that he had another fit, gosh, I don't know what would happen. But we're under the experts, and we would trust them implicitly now. I mean, I know it's easy to say now, because we've had a successful outcome. Listen to all the advice, get as much different opinions from different people, and take the lead from the person that is needing the surgery. If they are anyway unsure, postpone it. Because we were told, even up until the day of the surgery, even as he could go down to surgery, he could say stop. We were always given that option, that he could say, no, I'm not ready. And that was always at the forefront of their care. If the person isn't ready, we can come back to you in a few years. So it's never now or never. So if you don't feel quite ready, just pause, and they take you when you are ready. I think listen to as many people, hear different opinions. Something might be said that you hadn't thought of before, and ultimately it's down to trust in them at the end of the day with your child.
I suppose it's making that decision, because it is a choice at the end of it, in a lot of, with this type of surgery, it's a choice at the end of the day. So it's trusting yourself, trusting the others.
Yes, I think people are going to come to it from different viewpoints, different.
Yeah.
Their journey is going to be different than anybody else's. Obviously, family situations may impact it. There is no, you must do it, because different dynamics, different families. If the family was opposed to it, if they really didn't want it, or if siblings were concerned, there's no one setup, is there? Yeah. It's all individual to each case.
And that's interesting, because I think that reflects, in essence, what, say, epilepsy is as well. You know what you said, it draws us back to the beginning when you talked about even the medications. Not one works for everyone. Not everyone has the same types of seizures. Not everyone responds to certain medications always. It's very individual. Kind of a theme.
Yes. So obviously that's the expertise of these people that can take all these varying individuals from different walks of life, different backgrounds. They're coming at it from different viewpoints, different histories, and giving the advice that's appropriate for them.
Bridie, listen, we could literally talk to you all day, because it's so interesting to get this perspective from a parent. But I just want to finish up by asking you one final question. And that is that, I suppose they say, don't they, that our experiences in life shape us. They quite often go on to define us and just teach us lessons, I think. So we know from Eamonn how this has changed his life. From your perspective, what have you learned from this experience, and what will you take forward?
Oh my goodness. From having your life like upside down, never be the same again, to having this wonderful result and forever being grateful, forever grateful to those people that just do it as their day job. I mean, goodness me, they're the heroes in this world. Never ending thanks for what's been done. Thankful that we can hopefully be of use to other people and help guide them. I just think Eamonn has always wanted to give back. He's used, through BrainBuddy as well, you've been incredible. It was another patient that was on the ward at the time whose wife highlighted me to your wonderful BrainBuddy, and she, social media savvy than I am, and she was the one that had linked me up or told me about you. And I don't know, it's just incredible, the journey that he's been on, and I'm just so beyond proud of him. Just beyond proud. I mean, he's fundraised for the Brain Appeal. You said earlier it's a marathon, which is ironic because he's run 2 marathons, as to raise money for the Brain Appeal, and I don't think he's going to stop there. It's a funny, I know not everybody is under the National, but it's such a, we're so fond of the place, and although we've been discharged as such, I don't know whether I've said it to you before, but to have the link still with the place, because you've got such fond memories, not memories, it's not the correct word, but you've got a link with it. And although you know that you're just one of many patients that go through the system, well, I'm not the patient, but Eamonn goes through hundreds, thousands, you don't want to be clingy to it, but you still want to appreciate it, and you've got that incredible fondness for the place that I don't think will ever go.
And you say you don't want to be clingy. Sarah and I are hugely clingy. This is why we do this. We don't ever want to let the place go. But you're
but it is such a life-changing experience. It's such a momentous, thing in life. And, as time goes, obviously more time goes from when, say, people have had it, but that was such a key point for everyone, it sounds like, and so that life-changing experience, it really does mean something.
Yes, and I think every so often to think back at it and to think, gosh, did we actually go through that? And it is huge. It is huge. Your world is turned upside down.
Oh, fabulous. I mean,
thank you so much.
Thank you, Bridie.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Thank you, Bridie, for sharing your story and your perspective. Hopefully, if you are the parent or carer of someone that is contemplating having brain surgery, or maybe they've already had brain surgery, then that chat might have helped you and you may have been able to resonate with it in some way. Join us next time when Sarah and I will be joined by another special guest who will be sharing their journey of neurosurgery with us. As a reminder, you can keep updated on our latest podcast by following us on all social media platforms. Until then, stay safe, stay well, and stay tuned.